Hey, Cancer Warriors, it's Tanya, your holistic wellness specialist with I can't even talk today, Power Pantaloons podcast. And today we have special guest, Debbie Spector Weisman. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Tanya.
Did I get the name right?
You did. You did.
Fantastic. All right. If
You're
you
lucky you
would,
don't have to spell it because people always,
please, my last name is Belargin. Lucky you don't have to spell that.
yes.
Would you tell the audience what your zone of genius is, please?
Okay, I'm a certified dream life coach. And what that means is that I am uh, a life coach, but my emphasis is on dream work. I help people understand their dreams because as a very noted, famous dream worker said, Uh, dreams reflect our inner creativity and our ability to understand and solve all life problems. And I truly believe that is the case, that when we do understand our dreams and can get to the bottom of them and see how they relate to our life, we know ourselves better and can solve any problem that we have.
Well, I absolutely agree with that, Debbie, because I mean, there's even scientific proof that indicates that when you focus on something before you go to bed, you dream about that and it helps you solve that problem. So that what you're saying there makes absolutely complete sense to me.
Yes. Well, it's like the old expression, let me sleep on it. You think about expressions like that, you don't really realize where they come from, but for thousands and thousands of years, people have gone to sleep and have woken up, and whether they remember their dreams or not, they understand something new that they didn't before they went to bed.
Absolutely. So how do you start? Like so if you decide that you want to work on doing dream work, where do you begin?
Well, the first thing is that you have to believe that dreams are important. So many people, especially people, when I tell them what they do, they say, "Oh, I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams." Well, fact is, we all dream, except for the few rare circumstances where, there's some medicines that suppress our REM cycle, which make it impossible to dream, or, if we have a, dire mental illness that may make it impossible to dream. But most people do dream every night, anywhere from 3 to 9 dreams a night, depending on your sleep cycle.
Yep.
Well,
And you made those were two different things. Like I don't dream and I don't remember my dreams are two different things.
right.
So when people say both those things, they're both are not true.
They're both
And
not, well, it's true that if you don't think they're important, you're not going to remember your dreams. That much is true. So step one is to believe your dreams are important and to believe that they are real. Uh, then there are things you can do to promote remembering your dreams. Would you like me to go through them now?
well, I know one of them is put a dream journal by your bedside so that when you wake up, you immediately jot it down.
Right. But even before that, there are things you could do.
I
Uh,
absolutely want to hear about them.
yes. Okay. Well, it was explained to me when I first was studying dream work. My mentor said, feng shui your dream space. And by that, she meant, and I wholeheartedly subscribe to this, think of where you sleep, whether it's your bedroom or some other place. This is your sacred space.
Yes.
Treat it as such. Make sure that it's as neat as possible. Don't leave clothes lying on the floor, or don't have your night table, stack up to the top of your walls with stuff. Keep everything very neat. The only thing that should be on your night table is your dream journal and a pen or a pencil to write with it. Uh, and maybe a light, if you have had a light on your bed, that's okay. But as clean as possible. Invest in the best linens you can afford, because you want to honor the space. So make sure it's as nice and as beautiful as you can make it. Uh, then a couple of other things. Keep electronics out of your room if at all possible. And if it's not possible, then at least when you go to bed, cover them so they're not visible. They should not be there. Uh, then once that's all set, then you decide, okay, I want to have a dream tonight. And you actually set a declaration. That declaration can be something as simple as tonight I am going to have a remembered dream. Or once you've done this and get into the practice, you can set an intention to dream a specific thing. Like, I'm looking for an answer to this, or help me, get rid of my anger, or whatever it is that applies to you personally. You say this dream declaration out loud just as you're falling asleep. And you say it, a couple of times, repeat it to yourself and think about it. Then you fall asleep. As soon as you get up, the first thing to do is not move because dreams are in our very short-term memory, and any kind of physical movement can literally knock it out of your brain, knock it out of your consciousness. Because when we're getting up, we're in that veil, that sort of veiled space between our subconscious and our conscious. So we
Yeah.
want to be very still. And then while you're lying there, think of as much of your dream as you can. And when you're first starting out, you may not think about much. You may only have, an image or an incident or something very small. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, repeat it to yourself so you have an idea of what it is, and then write it down. Because even at that point, you could think, oh, wow, this was an amazing dream. If you don't write it down, or at least write down notes about it to get your mind, you're going to forget it. And I know from experience, this has happened to me too many times, and I want to admit. So write it down. And again, even if you don't remember everything, many times that when you wake up in the morning and you go back to that dream journal and you look at it, that's going to jog your memory and you'll have some more details you could fill in as it goes. That's the basic, very short, very succinct method for remembering dreams. And
Well,
we
right. So you start with mindset and intention. Both are super important. This podcast focuses on how you can help cancer survivors and or caregivers and things like that. So the reason that I invited Debbie onto the program is because I really believe that intuition and developing a relationship with your subconscious can save your life. Because for me, when I knew there was something wrong with my body, I made steps to get diagnosed, and that did save my life. So this is just a beautiful tool that you can add to your toolbox. Start now and
uh,
learn to work with your body, because your body is always talking to you through dreams and through other methodologies. And this is a fantastic, inexpensive way to develop your intuition and work with yourself to solve problems and become closer and do your shadow work. Do the work you're here to do.
absolutely. And I can't tell you, I know several people who eventually were diagnosed with cancer who had an inkling that there was something going on through their dreams. There's one of my dear friends who very early on when I first studied dream work, I became aware of her. Uh, she had a dream where these images, this like warrior kind of person came into her being and said, pointed to her breast and said, "You have cancer here." So she went to her doctor. They did a mammogram. Nothing came up. Your breast is normal. You're fine. And she was kind of skeptical, but okay, the doctor said it was fine. The mammogram said it was fine. Okay, I'll go home. Well, the next, she kept having these dreams where this warrior, and the warrior started talking to her and saying, "Don't believe the doctors. You need exploratory surgery." And she went back to the doctor. And doctor is, I can't operate on you. You know, it's unethical. There's nothing that's telling me that I need to do it. But she was so insistent and so, I'm not leaving this room till you agree to operate on me. They operated, and sure enough, they found the cancer, and it literally did save her life.
Yeah. I don't know that it was dreams for me, but I just had a knowing that there was something wrong. And my pap smears and all of my tests, the blood work, the ultrasounds, all of that came back either fine or inconclusive. They actually had to do a D&C to find mine. And yeah, it's rare that there are no markers in the blood, but it happens. And when they took my cancer out, it was over 10 pounds of cancer. So intuition plays a huge part. Your body is always speaking to you. So learning how to communicate with your body, the sooner you do that, the much how do I want to say it? The better off you are, because then you have that relationship with your body, and it can save your life, because it saved my life, it saved Debbie's friend's life. And I speak to survivor after survivor, and a lot of them say to me, I knew it in the back of my head, or I had this feeling, or I had this thing, where they're basically just saying, I knew I was sick, so I went and found out exactly what sickness I had.
Right. And the key is all about self-awareness. And so many times, through things we're told when we're little, things we're told in school, things we hear from, you know, the outside world, all tell us, no, don't pay attention to those things. Intuition is silly. Pay attention to the facts. If the test says this is it, then the test is right. But so we're kind of,
Test
society,
is not right.
right? Society's telling us, don't pay attention to yourself, but I'm saying, no, you must pay attention to yourself, because the more aware you are, the more you're likely to pick up on these things, whether you're dreaming or not.
Yeah.
Even in your waking life, you might have, that intuition. Yeah. Intuition is the same thing as understanding our subconscious. It's another way of our subconscious talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. It is super important work. I have used a dream diary in the past, and I do agree that when you set your attention in advance, you will start to remember your dreams. And it takes practice, and I'm not in practice anymore. It's something I stopped doing for whatever reason I couldn't even remember. But I'm gonna start it back up again. And all of the practices that you spoke of speak to how to sleep better. Like every like make the bedroom as inviting as possible. Have beautiful linens. Uh, Temperature is important, right? Like most people find that they prefer a colder temperature and then like 3,000 blankets.
Yeah.
Some people are different, but most people prefer that, and then maybe the 1 foot sticking out. I don't know. But electronics, not having the electronic vibe in your space makes a difference. I have the alarm clock, and I don't bring my cell phone into my bedroom, because I agree, the less external electricity that you don't need in your space, especially while you're trying to get to sleep, is helpful. I understand that some people require the white noise. There are little white noise machines that do that. You can have the ocean, you can have the whatever, right? Like all of that brings in a better sleep, which brings better health.
Right. And another thing also is aromatherapy. A lot of people
Yes.
smells like lavender is, classic for sleep. But there are other ones, and everybody is individual too. Because, I could say, use lavender, and somebody say, "Oh, I hate the smell of lavender. It's horrible, but I love this smell." Well, then use that smell because that's the whole idea is to, again, it's all about self-awareness. If it works for
Jasmine's
you,
another good one.
if it works for you, go with it. Here are some suggestions. Try this, but work, use what's best for you and just let's go with it that way.
Yes, I'm one of those people. I don't like the smell of lavender, but I find that when I need that essence, I can tolerate the smell and occasionally I'm like, oh, this is pretty. And then I realize it's lavender and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? So sometimes your body tells you you need a thing, and then you're more receptive to that thing.
Exactly. And it's funny about also things like synchronicity. Like when I was studying, to be a dream life coach, and we're talking about things that could help for sleep. One of the other things was talked about was an herb called mugwort, which I had not have heard of at the time. Well, it turns out that, I live in the country and mugwort grows like a weed all over my property. And it wasn't until I got one of those apps where you click the picture and it tells you what the plant is. I didn't even know that's what it was. And I've had it for years and years and years and didn't even know about it. So I now take it, I can make a tea out of it. It's very soothing. And
Yep,
it
I guarantee you it's in your backyard. It's in my backyard. It's all along all the roadsides over here in the Northeast. It is plentiful and everywhere. And I also make tea with it.
yes.
Mugwort is beautiful.
Yes, and another thing also that's helpful for some people, again, if it's something that appeals to them, are crystals. There's one in particular called Herkimer Diamond that is very helpful for not just sleep, not just dreams, but kind of like wow dreams. And I have one, I keep it, right next to my bed. And when I'm in the mood for a wow dream, I'll put it under my pillow and get some pretty interesting dreams that way.
What other crystals assist in dreams? I love crystals.
Yeah. Generally, any in the cord
Quartz.
family help, amethyst is another one. Uh but Herkimer diamond is probably of all of them the best one if you can get it.
Yeah, I used to make myself little dream pillows and it would have lavender, jasmine and hops in it, and then a little piece of amethyst and tuck that right under the pillow. Gave
Right,
myself some sweet dreams that way.
exactly. But like I say though, dream work, it's a practice. And I always like to compare it to working out at a gym. You go to the gym, you don't do one push-up and you're in shape. No, but if you do it consistently, on a very consistent basis, you'll work up those muscles and then, you'll get stronger. Well, it's the same thing with dreams because you're training your brain to again think that dreams are important and getting that message into your subconscious. Dreams are important. And the more you get that message there, the more you're going to have dreams and have remembered dreams.
Yep, absolutely. And practicing well, not necessarily dream interpretation. I think that's a whole different thing. And I know that there are dream interpretation books all over the place, but I feel, and I don't know how you feel about this, that you create your own dream interpretation book because some things that are in the standard ones don't actually gel with you. They don't make any sense. So you end up, when you start this practice, you end up creating your own um vocabulary, like what something means in your dream, and as you see how it applies to your life, you understand how that symbology works for you specifically, as
Very
opposed to a general symbology.
well, when I'm working with clients, I'll always ask them, what does this symbol mean to you?
Yeah.
Because that's what's important. Now, there's a place for dream dictionaries because sometimes you might have, some image come up that you don't really know what it means, and you're really at a loss. Well, that can sort of help you give you like a little idea of what it is. And so I find it helpful. I found it very, when I was first starting out, I found it very helpful because there are some classic images that are kind of universal in many ways. So it's helpful in that way. But I also learned very early on that no, you have to make sure that the symbol fits you and not just what the definition in the dream dictionary is. I was working with someone who it was a very pleasant dream. Usually, people come to me, they're horrible dreams because usually you don't need to deal much with a pleasant one. But this happened to be, I was working with her, and this happened to be a dream she had. It was a pleasant dream, and it was all the main part of the dream was all about chickens. And I'm thinking, well, classically, chicken is a symbol of, fear, or, you know, being out of control and not feeling, strong. It's kind of, a weak symbol, I put it that way. And it didn't make sense in the context of the dream. It's like, well, this has nothing to do with what's going on here. You know what's going on. So yes, and I said, well, what does a chicken mean to you? Well, it turns out that she had a little farm. She had chickens. She loves chickens. Chickens are her pets.
Yep.
So of course, and then that all of a sudden the dream made sense. It's, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like, some people love dogs and some people have a fear or distrust of it. So if the common, I don't know what the common thing on dogs is, if that doesn't make sense to you because you're afraid of dogs, then you have to explore it and create your own fitting to it. And that might take time to see what that is, but that's a developing a relationship with yourself, which is super important regardless of whether or not you end up with a diagnosis, a traumatic diagnosis such as cancer or something else. But the earlier that you learn to trust yourself and work with yourself to find your answers, the stronger your mindset's going to be. And um, I mean, it does add some fulfillment to your life, right? When you're able to trust yourself, it gives you confidence that the actions and the decisions that you're making are the right ones for you. And the more that you trust yourself, that it's a snowball effect. The more that you work with yourself, the more confident you get, the more you trust yourself, the more you work with, and it's a good snowball.
Oh, it is. And, I'm not a medical doctor, and, I'm not giving any kind of medical advice, but
Right.
also dream work can help, I would say, prevent cancers from happening. In the cancers that come from having things, your feelings, repressing your feelings and not letting them out. Cause from, the kinds of cause from stress and anxiety. When you remember your dreams and you're writing them down, you're getting all of that out. You're releasing that. You're not holding it in. It's not in your body. You're getting it out. And, it just helps in that way also.
I do feel that sword trauma can absolutely cause issues and it can eventually lead to disease and then disease. I feel that mind, body, spirit are all hand in hand, and that when we need to do healing, we need to do healing on all levels of it, which is why I feel that our medical system in the US is very broken and it doesn't do mind, body, spirit. And it really needs to because we're whole beings. You can't just work on like this one Lego piece and it not affect the rest of the Lego pieces around it. It doesn't make any sense intuitively to me. So I do. I agree that stored trauma can eventually lead to disease. And I'm going to go out and say it. I do believe that the reason that I ended up with uterine cancer has everything to do with the fact that I was violated for the first time at the age of 5, and yes, I've done work on the trauma, but I didn't do enough work. I don't feel anyway. And I did end up with 10 pounds of cancer in my uterus. And I feel that they're directly linked.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there are some things that Western medicine does great. One is orthopedics. I mean, you break a bone, they're the best methods for really helping people in that way and getting that. And the other thing they're very good at is the pharmaceutical industry and creating all of these pills. The challenge with that, though, is that all they do is mask the symptoms. They don't cure it. They don't get to the bottom of it. And you can mask it, for enough time. They keeps you alive, but it doesn't keep you in life.
Healthy.
In
Yes, right. Quantity versus quality. Absolutely. Nail on the head. And yes, we absolutely need allopathic Western medicine. Like the science is there. I do believe that you need to integrate the holistic, the spiritual, as well as the physical medicine. I think all of that is together, and I do believe that that is. I mean, I use that. So like for me, it was mindset. Every day, I actively decided to live, and how I did that is I visualized that I was wearing Wonder Woman's underwear. Like I visualized that I was putting those on when I put on my fresh pair of underwear every day, and that was the mindset thing because to me, Wonder Woman doesn't die. And then there was the having the right support network. All of my friends, family, and my medical team were all on board with how I was going to conquer my cancer. So there was the surgery, the chemotherapy, and the radiation, which is the standard of care. And it was the standard of care when I was diagnosed. But I had a conversation with my oncologist. I'm like, I'm going to do all these woo things. And he rolled his eyes at me and he said, "Fine, as long as you're not putting it in your mouth, I don't care. You want to walk around crystals in your bra, I don't care. That's fine. You want aroma, you want to smell things, great. But you're going to," and I said, "Yes, I'm going to go to my radiation appointments. I'm going to go to my chemotherapy appointments." And I did all of those things, and I feel that that was the right blueprint for me, not necessarily the right blueprint for you, right? So everybody has to create their own blueprint. And part of that is your body will tell you what it wants. Like, I knew that I needed Reiki, which is energy healing. I knew that I needed earthing or grounding, walking barefoot on the ground. I knew that I needed the aromatherapy and so many other different things. And for the clients that I work with, it's a difference. Sometimes they're like, "No, that sounds too woo for me," and so then it is like you said in the beginning, whether you choose to believe it or not, and that really plays a part in it.
Right. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I love about dream work is that even though people who don't know much about it think of it as being kind of woo, I see it as being very practical. And, there's so many, pieces of evidence to prove that. One is that, human beings have been working with their dreams for like 7, 8,000 years. So it's not like it's a brand new thing. It just come up and it's like nobody knows about it. Uh, when I'm speaking to people, I like to cite the examples of, that our founding fathers were very active dreamers. And, Thomas Jefferson came up with the phrase life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in a dream. And he, for many, many years, he had these, great letters that he wrote back and forth with John Adams where they would discuss their dreams. And
Mm,
communities in the United States, around the Civil War, even before that, but it was very common for families to get up, in the days when families got up and they had breakfast together, they would sit around the breakfast table and talk about their dreams.
that's
And
super cool.
it was great. And that's, I had, I have a podcast, and one of the people I had interviewed was this history professor who wrote a book about dreams of the Civil War. And you think,
Oh,
what
neat.
kind of dreams are you talking about? And many, 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 many soldiers would write home to their wives and just tell them about the dreams they had. And then the wives would write back and tell them about the dreams they had. And it wasn't about any kind of interpretation or any kind of like that. It was just very, because a lot of the dreams were about, the horrors of war would come up in the dream and they would
Yeah.
write about it and things like that, you know. And then there were the dreams, even, Lincoln had dreams about his, premonition of his death and things about that. And even Jefferson Davis had dreams about, what was going to happen, to the Confederacy. So it was much more common in many times in history. It was very common, in societies all over the world who practice dream work. And uh,
Yeah.
so it's there. And, and then, you could just talk about all the countless creative pieces, the books, the movies, the songs that have all been created from dreams. And so, to me, that's practical. That's not, out there. So there are many practical benefits, and the most important for me being greater self-awareness that we get. And, it comes out in many ways, whether it's having that sense that there's something about the body, helping you understand your body better, to more importantly, for me at least, helping to understand the mind better. And
Yes. I like I to your point, like the whole concept of woo and scientific evidence. I believe that a lot of the woo practices haven't just been proven yet. Like they're in the process of being proven. There's so much about our mind that we're unaware of, just how powerful it is, and we're still just barely starting to unlock the things that we can do. So
yeah, I mean, we're very, very early in the scientific study of dream work.
yeah,
And a lot of it is because, they're practical things. How do you test somebody who's sleeping when you get, and, so they have, the I don't know what to call them, but, the probes that measure when you're having REM sleep and the different sleep cycles.
yeah.
But even discovering that was fairly recent in scientific history, knowing that there is a sleep cycle. That was like a new thing. So now we're understanding it, and we're getting to the point where, people are looking at, how to program other people's dreams for them and having, and things that when I was first started dream work, I was told, these things are very, very rare. Lucid dreaming, which,
Mm.
is a lot of people are talking about lucid dreaming now. When I was first studying dream work, I was told, well, it's a very rare, very few people, do it. And it's true that it was back in the 70s when the first idea of lucid dreaming, was studied on the scientific level. And it was there were people who did it naturally, but then they thought, well, you can learn how to do it. And as a practice, I don't really do lucid dreaming because it takes work, and I haven't had that motivation to do that kind of work to do it.
So for my audience who might not know what lucid dreaming is, you want to explain that?
Sure. Lucid dreaming is when you know that you are dreaming while you are in the dream itself. And uh, when you get to a point, very often, like when people first do this, they say, "Oh my God, I'm dreaming. I'm on the dream," and then they wake up because it's so fragile, that boundary is so fragile that you can't. But once you get into understanding how to work with lucid dreams, you can do lots of fun things, lots of crazy things. Uh,
Control it a little bit, huh?
the people who study lucid dreams have said, the two biggest things that people do when they have lucid dreams are sex and flying.
Flying. I knew flying was one of them.
But sex is right up there as well. Uh, but you could do things like, go through walls or go into space. There are some people who, go into other planets, other galaxies even. And that's where you say, well, that's woo. But uh
But is it? I mean, the
well, it,
the
it just shows.
CIA released documents that proves that exist. So how woo is that, right?
Right.
Like,
but it shows how little we know about, our
Yeah,
mind, and that they're not limited, they're more limitless. And we're still figuring out, where to go with that.
exactly my point. So we're gonna just we're roll it right back up to mindset and intent, right? So how one of the tenets that I believe and that I work towards living in this manner is you can't control the situation. You can only control how you view it and respond to it. So when you get a new challenge, if you have a negative attitude towards it, your outcome is more likely to be negative because you've told the universe that that's what you expect, and the universe just wants to provide that. So if you look at a situation with a positive mindset, then you've told the universe that you expect a positive outcome. And the universe wants to give you what you're asking for. So we're going to go right back to the beginning statement that you said. You have to believe. So you have to believe.
Right. And the other thing is, if you understand that, you know, energy is all around us, and this is getting into, quantum physics, if your energy is all around us, we are all energy. And if you believe that, you can raise your energy level. And these are the things that happen when you're at a very low energy level, you feel depressed, you feel sluggish, you have brain fog, you're not thinking clearly. When you raise your energy level, you're you're much more lively, your brain literally wakes up, you have, more creativity, you're able to make connections to things you wouldn't see otherwise, you could come up with solutions. And one way you could do this is through your dreams. You ask your dreams to help you raise your energy level, you get more understanding. And the more understanding you have, the greater your energy level is. And you keep building on it and building on it and building on it. And then the possibilities are all there. And then it's just a matter of what are you going to listen to? What are you going to act on?
Yep, absolutely. So do you have any final thoughts that you want to present or
Well, sure, I'll say, dreams, we all dream, and the best thing in the world you could do is to get into a dream practice where you remember your dreams, uh, not even having to, get into what does this mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? You just write them down. You start to get an understanding. You have a better understanding of yourself. If you really, 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 really get stuck, you could come see somebody like me who could help you. I don't tell you what your dreams mean, by the way. I help you figure out what your dreams mean.
and how can somebody get in touch with you?
So my website is The Dream Coach, all one word, thedreamcoach.net. And my email is Debbie@thedreamcoach.net. If you have any questions, I always, will answer any question that comes at me. I also have a podcast called Dream Power Radio, which is available everywhere. It's about all kinds of empowerment, dreams included. And come check it out.
I will make sure that those links are in the show notes on my YouTube, and I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Debbie. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Tanya.
Until next time, man, I want all of you to go schedule your next routine appointment. Today was my colonoscopy, tomorrow's diagnostic mammogram. Get your testing done because it can potentially save your life. Bye.